Praise be the Messiah, and welcome to today's video of Tactica Mechanicum, where we take a look at the Castellax Destructor Maniple. We talk about the points cost, the special rules it has, starting Wargear, options for the Wargear, any special equipment it might have equipped, be possible to equip, the type of the unit it is, and what trait does it have. So, Castellax Destructor Maniple is a heavy assault detachment, which means most likely, if you're not running the Apex detachment, you will need to run a shock assault, auxiliary shock assault detachment. Now, it's 100 points for 2 models, which makes it quite expensive, but as we get to the stat line, you'll see why it's so expensive. Now, you can include up to 4 additional at 50 points per model, so you can end up with 4 Castellax Destructor Maniple models in one squad. Now, going to the stat line. Castellax, movement 6, which is, you know, standard movement for any infantry. Weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+, well, a 3, which means you're hitting in melee and in range at 4 on force, but there are ways of increasing this, both of those statistics, up to 4, which means you'll be hitting on 3s. Its strength is 6, quite powerful. Toughness 6, quite resilient as well. Wounds 4, which is very important, which we'll get to why it's important when we get to the special rules and to the type of the unit. Initiative 3, which makes the unit not as fast as most of the Marines. And with certain weapon choices that you might take, it makes it even worse. But it being very resilient, with a lot of wounds, kinda offsets the low initiative point. But it only has 2 attacks, which, you know, melee is probably if you're in a pinch, if you're stuck and you really need to kill something, or you got charged and the enemy unit has only a couple of models left, then yeah, with 2 attacks per guy, if you have 4 of them, that's what, 2, 4, 6, that's 8 attacks. And weapon skill 3, possibly 4, but strength 6, so, you know, I wouldn't count on them killing anything major in melee. It's an option that you have. Now, its leadership is 7, its cool is 12, willpower 4, intelligence 4. Now, these 4 stats don't really matter, because 99% of the time you will have a Magos or a Tech Priest attached to the unit, because they are not Automata unit. It has a 3-up save and a 6-up invul, but it can get upgraded to a 5-up, which we'll get to in a second. Let's look at the Wargear. It has 2 bolters, pretty standard, Mauler bolt cannon, and shock chargers. Now, let's have a look at what is a Mauler bolt cannon. Mauler bolt cannon is 24-inch range, firepower 4, so 4 shots per guy. That's actually quite a lot. If you have 4 of them, that's 16 shots. At strength 6, which means you wound most of the Marines to infantry on 3s, even Terminators, which are toughness 5, I think. Now, AP 4, which is a letdown, but we can't have everything, and damage 1. It has 2 special rules, Shred 5+, and Pinning 0. Now, the Shred 5+ is actually nice, because you might get an extra point of damage. So the damage 1 bolt cannon suddenly is damage 2, which is very useful against any of the Terminators. Now, again, it's AP 4, so you need a large amount of attacks that this weapon has for it to do any significant damage. Now, Pinning 0 is interesting because this weapon inflicts the pinning status. Well, I mean, that is, of course, if the enemy fails a cool check in the morale subphase. It doesn't have any negative modifiers because it's at 0, so it's just a standard check, and a lot of Marines have usually a good cool check, which, you know, it would be, I wouldn't count on the Pinning 0 to be a game changer. But it's worth noting that it's not a heavy weapon, which will matter for the special rule. And instead it's a bolt weapon. Now, shock charges are its melee weapon. And shock charges are initiative -1, so you're going even lower to initiative 2. Attack modifier is nothing, so 2 attacks. But strength modifier 2, so you go to strength 8. AP 4, which again is not great, but damage 2 flat. I mean, it's alright. It's nothing crazy. You will be hitting after the Marines anyway. And with only 2 attacks at AP 4, you're very unlikely to kill too many. Even like regular power armor guys with the 3-up save. Because it doesn't have shred, it doesn't have any special rules. So it would be good against maybe, let me think, Solar Auxilia, right? Because I think they have worse armor than Space Marines, right? I think they are 4-up, which shock charges would be actually pretty good against. Now let's check what traits it has. Allegiance, which obviously Heretic or Loyal, and trait is Cybernetica, which means that any command or high command or troop choice that you will attach to this unit, you should give them the Cybernetica trait, so you don't get any negatives. And so there's a nice little stacking thing going on, because then you can cast the Cyberturgic Rites, which can increase your weapon skill and ballistic skill by 1. We will look at the Cyberturgic Rites in Tactica videos when we get to the command and troop choices. But yes, there is a, I believe it's guide. I think it's guide, just off the top of my head, that can give you +1 weapon skill and +1 ballistic skill. Now, it's not terribly difficult to pass, but in my game that I played, I only succeeded once on it, but my rolls were horrendous. Absolutely out of ordinary, so you should get it at least like twice in a game, in 2 rounds, right? So you will be hitting on force in melee and in range. Special rules. Bulky 4, which means we don't want to put this in any transport because it will take 4 slots. And with 4 models, that's 4, 8, 12, that's 16 slots that the 4-man unit will take. Which means you can put it in the conveyor belt with a leader. They will fit. It has Implacable Advance. And if we look at Implacable Advance, models with this special rule can make volley attacks with other weapons. Now, as long as the weapon doesn't have heavy or ordnance, you can make a volley attack. Normally, only assault weapons can. Now, the good thing is that the Mauler Bolt Cannon is not a heavy or ordnance weapon, which means you can use the Mauler Bolt Cannon as a volley attack. Dark Fire Cannon, which is one of the options, is a heavy, which it means you cannot use it, I believe. And Multi-Melta is also heavy. So it basically means that your bolters and your Mauler cannons can be used to make volley attacks. Which is cool, considering the amount of attacks you get for the Mauler Bolt Cannon. It's literally a Mauler. Tried something, didn't work out. Anyway, the next rule it has is Explodes on 6s, which is straightforward, but it has Firing Protocols 3. Now, what Firing Protocols 3 means is that this unit can make an attack with more than 1 ranged weapon. So it has a Mauler Bolt Cannon and 2 bolters. With Firestorm Firing Protocols 3, all of those 3 weapons can fire. So your Mauler Bolt Cannon and 2 bolters, you can fire all 3 of them. Yeah, the prerequisite is for your unit to have a shooting weapon, which obviously Castellax has. So Fire Protocol is very useful. You can fire all your weapons. Then the next rule it has is Armor Breaker 4+, which I think makes this unit very dangerous to vehicles. Especially if we look at the weapons that you can take for it. Armor Breaker 4+ states that whenever you score a penetrating hit, or penetrating wound, you roll a dice. If you roll a 4+, because it's armor breaker for in brackets 4+, you can do an additional point of damage. So let's say your multi-melta, or sorry, your Darkfire Cannon has damage 1. It scores a penetrating hit, and then you roll a 4+ on this. Your last cannon, your Darkfire Cannon, suddenly does 2 points of damage, two whole points, which is a nice little blip. And being a 4-up means you have a 50% chance on every dice roll. And with a squad of 4, if you have 4 Darkfire Cannons, that's 2 shots per guy. That's 8 Darkfire Cannons going into vehicle. If we, let's say, you hit on, you get your Cyberturgic Rights off, that's, you hit on trees, so out of the 8, let's say, you get a little bit lucky, a 6 hit. Out of the 6, maybe, depending what you're targeting, obviously a Rhino or a Predator or a Spartan, but let's say out of the 6, 3 score penetrating hits. And out of the 3, you roll your 4-ups and you got lucky and you rolled a 4-up, and a 1. Which means that you, instead of doing 3 damage, you do 5 points of damage. So it literally it doubles the amount of damage, because the what you call it, Darkfire Cannon does 1 point of damage. So it literally doubles it on a 50-50 chance, which is pretty good. So then the next rule that this thing has is phased refractor shields. Basically, what it means is you improve your invul save by 1 against shooting attacks. So your 6-up invul goes to 5-up invul. Very annoying for the enemy. 5-up invul is actually not bad, especially against the amount of marine weaponry that has breaching or AP is AP3 or AP2. Invul 5-up on a 4 wounds model that can be healed or repaired, because it's an automata unit. It can be repaired by a tech priest or a magos or high archmagos. It makes it to be a very resilient unit, especially at toughness 6. Because, for example, if we look at Blood Angels, they get +1 strength on charge. Sorry, their strength for Dawnbreaker cohort with their lances suddenly is strength 5 on a charge. And then I believe they get another +1 because of the lance. I think the lance has some sort of ability. So they only meet your strength or your toughness, which I believe meets equals to 4-up to wound. Instead of it being a 3-up, which is actually a big difference to wound in a game system where rerolls are just not present, right? It actually makes a big difference. So yeah, this is a very tanky unit that has a lot of potential to do a lot of damage, especially if you attach a command unit to it. Now, we've talked about the special rules. Now, the thing is, the type of this unit is an automata, which means this unit cannot gain any tactical statuses, but it cannot score any points. And it has a little bonus to a poisoned rule, right, against it, because it's it's an automata. And it cannot make reactions. Now, what's important is, in Mechanicum, you need to attach a command unit to Castellax Destructor Maniple, so that you offset the negatives for the automata type. So if you attach a unit of a Magos with a Cortex controller, I believe it's Cortex controller, suddenly this automata unit can make reactions, which is very important for volley shots, or I believe volley shot is a reaction, or for return fire, which with Darkfire Cannons, you basically guarantee yourself a second round of shooting in 1 turn. So having reactions on automata is very important, so you need a leader. Now there's a bit of discussion, because automata cannot gain tactical statuses, but the leaders can. So there's a question going on in the community, which I haven't seen a clear answer to. If you attach a Magos to an automata unit, does the whole unit is able to gain the status, tactical status, so they're suppressed or pinned? Or is it only the leader, but then the leader is part of the unit? How does that work? I'm not entirely sure, but it's a little bit of a negative. But it gives automata ability to use reactions if you have a leader attached, and the attached leader usually have an equivalent of a line ability, which allows the automata units to score extra points on objectives. Now, options. Options is where this unit really starts to come alive. We have power blades for 10 points per model. Now, mind you, this unit is already very expensive. But power blades, I'll have a look. Initiative 0, attacks modifier 0, strength modifier 0, but it's AP 3 and damage 1, breaching 5 up, shred 5 up. Which means that any attack that goes through shreds right through a 3 up armor. And if your automata gets locked up by a unit with 2 up armor save, you do have breaching on a 5 up. Breaching ignores the armor save, so you basically treat any breaching wound as a 2 up AP, which is fantastic. Now shred 5+ is also good because it allows you to again do an extra point of damage in melee. Now it's a 5 up, which is but you have an option. So it's a very good upgrade for 10 points, but you might be stuck on points. So when we get to the range options, I'll talk a bit more about the power blades. Now the other option is you can basically take flamers instead of bolters. I don't like it. I prefer bolters because I feel like bolters do just enough. So, you know, it is what it is. Flamers are cool for doing statuses, right? But I prefer bolters. It's cheaper as well. Now, range weapons. You can either take Darkfire Cannon for 15 points or Multi-Melta for 10 points. Now, I'll tell you right now. I will run 2 squads of 4. One squad is with Power Blades and Multi-Melta because it will be a close range. Multi-Melta is closer, needs to be closer than a Darkfire Cannon. Darkfire Cannon has no upgrade in melee, but the entire squad is with Darkfire Cannons. The Multi-Melta squad has Power Blades because there's a higher chance of them being locked up in combat. Now, we went over Multi-Melta in the previous, in the Talax section, but it's basically 24-inch range, one shot, strength 8, AP 2, damage 3, special rules, Melta 8, and heavy round shred, so it can go up to 9 if it doesn't move, which on this unit actually could be possible to get the heavy round shred. Yeah, Multi-Melta can get Armor Bane within 8 inches, but again, it's very close. So, Darkfire Cannon is 36-inch range, which is fucking massive. Firepower 2, Strength 8, AP 2, damage 1, heavy damage, so it doesn't move, it gets an extra point of damage, suppressive 2. Now, from my game, I found out that this weapon is a great Dreadnought killer, at least Contemptor Dreadnought. I've put a 3-man squad into a singular Contemptor Dreadnought and I obliterated him in 1 turn. It's nuts. I really like this gun. Now, I don't think it's your typical, it's your standard issue anti-tank weaponry. Like, it will take Rhinos down, it should take a Predator down, but it won't take any of the Land Raiders, right? Because it's only strength 8. But if you put this into a Walker, like, let me check quickly. If I go on new recruit, we're going to Horus Heresy, create a list. Let's pick my favorite Blood Angels for Space Marines, Legion 9, list name whatever, and let's go into, where is it? Detachments. What would they be in? I'm looking for a detachment that can give me a, what you call it? A Dreadnought. Detachments, Crusade Primary. Okay, Auxiliary, there we go. I think it's heavy support, is it? Yes, heavy support. So, Contemptor is toughness 7, which means you wound this thing on trees. Deredeo is toughness 7. Again, you wound this on trees. Leviathan is toughness 8, which means you wound this on 4, still pretty good. Saturnine is toughness 8, which again, it's the chunkiest one, and you wound it on 4s. Castroferrum is toughness 6, which means you wound it on 3s. And Contemptor Incendius, that's Blood Angel Special, is toughness 7. So, at worst, you're wounding it on 4s, at best, you're wounding it on 3s. On top of it, you do have the Armor Breaker rule, which I don't know if it would trigger for this one. Let me just have a look. No, it wouldn't, because that wouldn't be a penetrating hit. Okay. But still, you have 8 Darkfire Cannon shots at long range. If they're like, well, 7 wounds per Dreadnought, or 7 or 8, you do 1 point of damage per, per Darkfire Cannon. And if you get the Cyberturgy right, you hit on 3s. So 8, let's say 6, let's say 5. You can do 5 points of damage. And on top of it, the Darkfire Cannon has heavy damage. So if you don't move, you can literally one-shot it in the second turn if the enemy misplaces his unit. Like, it's very powerful. It's a Terminator, sorry, not Terminator, well, yeah, Terminator as well, but it's a Dreadnought killing weaponry. Now, Multi-Melta is your standard Multi-Melta, not much to talk about here. And I believe that's it. So, Castellax Destructor Maniple, great at dealing with Marines, great at dealing with heavy Marines, very good, sorry, I should say very good at dealing with heavier Marines, great at dealing with enemy walkers, but it does require support in a form of a command or high command or a troop unit that has to lead it, and you have to pay 10 points for, I think it's 10 points for Cortex Controller. So you put a lot into this unit, but it is worth it. It's very hard to kill, you can repair it, you can bring models back, it has a lot of wounds, it has high toughness, and the low weapon and ballistic skill can be offset with a good dice roll. Now, a 4 Castellax Maniple with Power Blades and Multi-Meltas costs 280 points. 4 Castellax Destructor Maniple with Shock Charges and Darkfire Cannons costs 260 points. It'd be more if I were to pay extra 5 points per Flamer, but again, I don't like Flamers. So that's the cost, 280 and 260, and those, I'm running 2 of them. So that'd be 400, 480, 540 points, which is a lot of investment, and that's not counting the 2 leaders with Cortex controllers, right? So it will be around like 700 or below that, just below that. It's an investment, but it's a good investment. It's a very cool model. I feel like it has good rules, solid rules, very tanky, good damage output. If you're playing Mechanicum, I would seriously suggest running at least 1 of these. One full squad. Especially that, considering we have a lot of Cybernetica units, it should be very easy for you to maybe pick a Apex detachment where you could put the Castellax Maniple in and give them a prime unit ability, which if we look here, there, hold on, I don't think they can have this. No, they cannot be prime in this because they're shock. Okay, they're heavy assault. So they would have to be like Romerita, which they're not. Ah, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, okay, I believe you cannot give the Castellax, I could be wrong about this, but I believe you cannot give Castellax the Paragon of Metal Prime Advantage, because the Command Maniple for Cybernetica doesn't have their type. As you can tell here, it doesn't have their type. Okay, that's interesting, did not know that. Penelope of Cruelty, but that's Lacrimerta. And you can only choose Ursorax cohort for Lacrimerta detachment. Okay. Actually, I will need to check this. If there's a way to give them a... whatchamacallit? A prime advantage, but any of the special detachments don't have that ability, from what I can see. Maybe there is a regular rule book. I need to look into the rule book, but I don't think there's a way to give them prime. So, which is a shame, because if we look at Cybernetica and we see what does the prime thing do, advantage, it's leadership, intelligence, willpower +4, initiative, weapon skill +1. Okay, for them it's not that useful, because you will have a leader which you will use its leadership, intelligence, and willpower, so the +4 doesn't do anything. The high initiative and weapon skill is not important because this is a range unit, and uses its melee if it's in a pinch. So yeah, okay, not fair. Thanks a lot for watching. May the Omnissiah bless your electrical devices, and I'll see you next one. Get one.